Welcome to Jacksonville University. We are so excited that you've chosen to be a dolphin with us. My name is Dr. Jennifer Weldon, and I'm from the JU Student Counseling Center. And Mallory will introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mallory Warner. I am the Assistant Director of Rape Recovery over at the Women's Center of Jacksonville.
And we are thrilled to talk to you today about healthy relationships. When we think about some of the most important things that you learn in a college university setting, relationships to me are one of those life-lasting things that impact your ability to grow and develop. So we're excited to talk to you today about healthy relationships and some things we have at Jacksonville University. Let's see. Let's see, some technical difficulties, I apologize. Brian, are you able to help me with that?
Hi, Jen, use your arrow keys and see if that helps.
It's not working right now, I have my arrows. First question for you all is, do you know someone who has been in an unhealthy relationship? And this is obviously anonymous. We're gonna show percents here in a minute. It could be you, a friend, a family member, a coworker, or just another person in your life. So go ahead and take a moment to think about that. So it looks like, as we're looking at the poll come in, there's an overwhelming amount of you that are yes. So what does a healthy relationship look like? You know, when we see that 93% of you are indicating that you know someone who's been in an unhealthy relationship. You know, when you think about a healthy relationship, what does it look like? Who are some role models for you? Who are some people in your life that you say, you know, this is the kind of relationships that I want to have? And while today we're talking a lot about romantic or partner relationships, this can also apply to friendships. It can apply to parents. It can apply to, many of you are going to have new roommates, and that's exciting. Or it could even apply to teammates, coaches, faculty, or other relationships you might have. So as we talk about things today, think about it from different lens of relationships you have. And what a healthy relationship, who are some role models for you? What does that look like? And I like to call it the 7 C's of healthy relationships. So if you think about, we're going to go into these a little bit more, you know, 7 C's: conflict resolution, checking in, consent, courage, compassion, celebration, and communication. And when I think about conflict, we see relationships as one of the #1 things in our counseling center. And a lot of people say, well, if I have conflict, is that a problem? And the answer is absolutely not. All healthy relationships do have a degree of conflict. So we're going to talk a little bit about these 7 C's and how to check in and see where your relationship might be at. So majority of relationships do have a healthy amount of conflict. And when I talk about conflict, this means, do you have an ability to find, have a disagreement and then hopefully come to a peaceful resolution about it? It's not necessarily a win-lose situation. Sometimes there's a win-win, but no person should feel pressured to compromise your own values or boundaries. You should also try not to keep things bottled up until it kind of blows over and becomes too much. So it's good to think about healthy, you know, engaged conflict from time to time. And as I said, one of the #1 things we see in the counseling center on campus is relationships. So we also teach fair fighting strategies as well as assertiveness. So if you're one of those that's like, I kind of get pushed over a little bit in conflicts, know that we have abilities to help you learn and develop these strategies that are completely free and confidential. When I think about checking in, you know, this is really paying attention to each other's needs, taking that into account, checking in with yourself to see what do you feel about the relationship. Does it feel safe? Does it feel comfortable? And make sure to check in with the other person. Again, this could be a romantic relationship, a partner, or it could be even a roommate that you have. Check in to say, is this okay that I have this person over or visiting at this time? Does this feel safe and comfortable to you? So you don't get into those situations where you make an assumption and really the other person didn't necessarily feel comfortable with that. So anonymous poll number 2, I want to check in before we show this. How many of you have seen the video on making a cup of tea, YouTube video about consent? Okay. Looks like a great number of you have, which is wonderful to see. I know we did show it at some other JU stuff, so hopefully some of you attended that one. And since there's only a few of you that haven't seen it, I'm gonna put it out there and encourage you to watch it if you have not seen it. And you can Google tea consent video on YouTube, and it will pop right up. And the reason I think this is a good one is because sometimes people, it's a funny, humorous way to talk about consent, but it's also a serious tone that sometimes people get into situations that, you want to make sure that there's respect and consent for everything throughout any encounter that you might have in a relationship. So it's a really interesting way to kind of bring that point home about consent. I do have the link here for you, but you can also, since many of you have seen it, you can go and Google it and watch it on YouTube and kind of pay attention to some of those really important parts about consent. And I encourage you, that includes also checking in with yourself to know when you feel safe and comfortable in a relationship, and also paying attention to when you feel not. I would say one of the biggest things is trusting your gut instinct about that too, and knowing that you can always get out of a situation if it does feel unsafe. Now, our next C is courage. It takes a lot of courage. I brought up assertiveness in communication, but it takes courage as well to be an ally and to be a partner for those that might be experiencing incidents of harm or situations. And overwhelmingly, 93% of you said you know someone who's been in a situation that is an unhealthy relationship. And so sometimes it's obvious, and other times it can be more subtle. One of the really exciting things we have at JU, which is all just part of your JU experience, is the Green Dot program. We have the Jacksonville University Green Dot program, which teaches you really life skills about how to be courageous in a situation, whether it's for yourself, also whether it's a bystander. So whether it's a situation where you may see something, you're out at a store, you're at a place and you see something that's going down and you're like, I kind of want to help, but I just don't know how. The Green Dot program is a wonderful way to teach you how to be courageous at your own comfortability. And we will be happy to introduce you to that once you're on campus. We have a lot of exciting things. It's a nationwide respected program based on good research, and our students absolutely love it. So if you feel like, gosh, I want to do more, I want to help people, 93% of you know people who are in a relationship that is difficult and unhealthy, and you say, I want to know how. And we will go into depth about helping you to be courageous. The next C I want to talk about is compassion. And this is a big one. Obviously, when you think about thoughtfulness and sensitivity towards others, providing that support, not necessarily trying to fix other people's problems, but always to check in and to have that compassion. One of the ways we like to talk about it in the counseling center is also putting yourself in another person's shoes. So, helping to see that other's perspective that you might have. And then, of course, celebration is one of our C's. So appreciation for each other and your relationship. So this includes just having excitement about each other's dreams and accomplishments, appreciation for the uniqueness of the other person who's in a relationship, as well as your own and what you bring to that relationship. Our next C is communication. So obviously this is something really huge that we see in the Counseling Center, just helping you to learn how to communicate with each other, expressing your needs, your wants, your feelings, and really listening for the purpose of understanding. So we do have a ton of workshops that we offer at the Counseling Center gearing towards healthy communication and just healthy relationships. So look out for those. We have those some on our website already, and others will be coming throughout the semester. So when you think about a relationship, many of you have already been in relationships for most of your life, but when you think about romantic or friend relationships, usually we call it, the beginning of a relationship. So sometimes we have students that say, I want a relationship, I don't know how. Learning to, build on, each other, a foundation of respect and appreciation, which does take time. Exploring each other's interests, trying new things together, and establishing a pattern of mutual respect and accountability. And as your relationship grows, as many of you realize in high school, you have friendships, you have romantic relationships. Remember that relationships change. You grow, you develop together, and you enhance your relationship hopefully over time. But this also means checking in periodically, setting aside time to check in with each other. Is this meeting expectations and goals individually and as a couple or a friendship? Also maintaining your individual identity. So sometimes we see where people can get really enmeshed together, and it's important that each of you have needs that are outside of the relationship. So it shouldn't be a relationship where somebody's kind of overly controlling or demanding on a partner, but that there's room for you both to explore your unique interests and your prior goals, even to being in the relationship. Of course, many people have experienced the end of a relationship, and as much as that can be extremely hard, and we obviously help with relationship breakups as well, or even roommate situations if you find, hopefully you won't, but if you find yourself at a place that you need help with how to manage a difficult relationship, we are here for you. And the most important thing that we can emphasize here is communicating directly and respectfully. Trying to be open and as good of a communicator as you can to tell the person that you have decided where you're at in ending the relationship, and perhaps if you feel safe, for what reasons. It's also extremely important when ending relationships to take care of yourself. This is one of the things we provide a lot of support for at the university counseling center, but relationships can be very difficult. Spending time with supportive friends and family, and really, practicing some good activities that bring just kind of care for yourself, as well as reduce stress at that time. So, poll number 3, anonymous again. Do you know someone who has had a bad experience in a relationship breakup? I look at the numbers coming in. Looks like the overwhelming percent is definitely yes. All right. So it looks like majority of you, over 80%, are indicating that you do know someone who had a bad experience in a relationship breakup. And I think that just goes to show us that, relationship breakups are very difficult. And it's kind of, in the norm that people will have difficulty with those relationship breakups. And we recognize that, and we don't want to minimize that. And if anything, we will know that we're here to support you if that does happen. All right. And now Mallory is going to talk a little bit about how do we even tell what's unhealthy and healthy relationships.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Weldon. So we were, as she was saying, conflict is normal and conflict is healthy and conflict is okay. It's, it's kind of getting to that point of when is something that seems normal, maybe cross that line. So we have a couple columns here, and we use this a lot when we do our Green Dot program, kind of looking at those behaviors and like when does it become concerning? So we have things like an unhealthy behaviors column, feeling jealous or possessive, or wanting to be with that person all the time. Well, especially when you're first starting a relationship, you do want to be with that person all the time. That's what's fun about a new relationship, whether it's a new friend, whether it's someone that you're dating. That absolutely is something that's totally common and normal, and we see that all the time. So when does it turn into maybe an unhealthy behavior? Things like texting a million times a day. Depending on that relationship, that may be something that's completely normal and okay with the people that are involved. Checking out their social media accounts, calling the person all the time. Maybe you start to notice that people are spending less time with their friends or family members. Maybe they only are wanting to spend time with one particular person. And that can be kind of difficult to navigate because, again, especially when at those beginnings of the relationships, those are things that are not uncommon. We see them all the time, and most of the time it's fun. It's exciting to be part of a new relationship. But kind of what is the one thing that's making those common behaviors maybe a little bit unhealthy? And I think that's when we need to start looking at the intent. That's when we need to, check in with people and kind of see how they're feeling about it. If somebody is wanting to be with that person all the time and they're both on the same page about it, that might be one thing. But if one person is feeling pressure to spend all their time with a particular person, or one of the people in the relationship is feeling that if they don't spend all their time with somebody, that somehow they're going to be in trouble or get that person mad at them, well, then that's a situation where we need to kind of look at what's going on and seeing what kind of other dynamics are at place. One of the things that we always want to keep in mind is that we never know what's going on between two people. We only see snippets here and there, especially, in Green Dot, we talk a lot about like bystanders, and we only see so much. So even just doing little check-ins can be helpful, just so that people know that you care about them and making sure that they know that if there is ever anything going on, you're there to help them. So another way that we can kind of look at unhealthy relationships is something that's called our power and control wheel. And Dr. Weldon, I think you might need to help me out. I don't think I have control to move the next slide. Oh, thank you. So the power and control wheel, it was something that's been developed by a domestic violence center quite a few years ago, but it's a really great way to kind of look at all the different aspects of an unhealthy and maybe even potentially abusive relationship and kind of put it all into like one space. Sometimes there are things that we just don't even recognize. There are things that maybe seem really small to us that we're not even like registering as unhealthy. So this is a really great way to kind of see the intersections of those behaviors and seeing how they can affect us in our day-to-day lives. So we're going to just kind of go through each of the sections and kind of look at them, maybe look at some examples. So let's go start our next one. So using that economic abuse. So maybe that person is telling their partner that you don't have to worry about working, I'll take care of you. And that could seem really nice. That could seem really helpful. That could seem, oh, great. Like I can focus on other things. I can do what I want. I don't have to worry about, having to pay my bills. I don't have to worry about having to, work, a job that maybe I'm not really in love with. And that does seem, great in theory. So I think a lot of us might want to take a vacation, not have to work as hard. But now it's in a situation where the other person is controlling the money. Maybe now someone feels that they have to ask permission before spending any money, or feeling that they aren't allowed to spend any money because they're not the ones who are maybe going out and earning that money at a job. So that could be something that could be unhealthy. At the same time though, sometimes it's better for one person to stay home. Like maybe that's just how that relationship needs to be. We don't know what everyone's needs are with their families. So again, we can't necessarily say that that is 100% of the time an unhealthy behavior, because it's not. We just don't know, but it's the intent behind it. Is there a controlling aspect to it? That's one of the things that we need to kind of keep in mind when we're looking at that. Things like using intimidation, using emotional abuse. You know, if you ever have been to like a restaurant with a group of friends and maybe you go to order and everyone's putting in their order and your friend orders, you know, some dessert afterwards and her boyfriend makes a comment of, oh, really? I think we're gonna lay off that dessert. And she does that in front of all their friends. Like, that is not something that's okay. Like, that might be something that maybe they're joking around, like maybe that's something that between them that they're okay with, but maybe you notice that the person who the joke was directed towards kind of has that look on their face of feeling embarrassed, or maybe they feel that, oh my gosh, like you just said that, do I not need to have dessert? And again, that's something that's super small. That's not something that maybe a lot of people would even like recognize as abuse, but those are things that we want to, you know, keep in mind. We don't want to ever make somebody feel that, you know, they're not good enough, that they can't stand up for themselves. You know, that's something that we always definitely want to keep, always keep the forefront of our mind. And even like on the more extreme side of things, using that intimidation. If somebody is smashing things, if somebody is damaging, you know, their belongings, throwing their phone because they got a text message from somebody from their class, you know, those are things when it starts to get even a little bit more concerning, because that could be actual, you know, physical safety that could be, you know, into question. So again, these are all things that we just kind of always want to look at. And then the next looking part is using, specifically in this case, male privilege, but also like privilege just in general. If someone maybe makes more money than another person, that's an economic privilege. If somebody is doing really well in their classes and they get along with their professor and the faculty and staff really look upon this person as a really like model student, and their partner maybe not so much, you know, that could be a privilege of, well, you know, who's gonna believe you, like if you say anything. So using that privilege to assert that power and control over somebody. And, you know, for those who have children, you know, children is something to kind of keep in mind too, but that could also include like pets as well. That can include any loved one, really, being able to make them feel guilty if they're not spending enough time with somebody, or not spending enough time with, you know, the new pet they got, threatening to not let them go and see certain members of like their family or their friends group. You know, those are definitely things that, you know, make you kind of a little concerned for someone that you love, someone that you care about. And then we have one more couple of sections is using that isolation. You know, especially at the beginning of a relationship, it's so fun to spend all that time with someone. You're getting to know them, you're learning new things, you're having a great time, but it's important to have that balance. You know, y'all are all about to start school, so being able to meet new people, being able to develop your interests. You know, when you're first coming here, you have an idea about what you want to be doing and what you want to be studying, and this is the time to really explore that. Like, that's what's so great about this time in your life, is that you really get to learn new things, and then you meet somebody and it can be really great and they can be supportive and they can be encouraging. But there's also sometimes that people make those decisions where they want to have all your time. And, you know, you could be missing out on so many other great experiences. Not that you can't spend time with that person, but we also, it's good to have that balance. It's good to have shared interests, and it's good to have your own thing as well. But making you feel that you have to spend all your time with them, or that you just simply talking to another person is causing them to go into just a jealous, like an angry, you know, moment, and they're yelling at you, they're making comments towards you. You know, that's a situation where we want to check in, and we want to like make sure that you're comfortable, and, you know, if you need to, you have someone that you can talk to about this. And, you know, minimizing, denying, blaming, it can be so easy when you care about somebody to, you know, accept that maybe it's my fault that they got so upset. You know, if I didn't do this, then they wouldn't have, you know, gotten so angry. And, you know, it's understandable to kind of have those feelings. It's not uncommon, but I promise you that if somebody is hurting you in this way, that's a situation where they're the ones who are making that decision. It's not you. So please know that. And, we'll talk in a little bit about other ways that you can, reach out for help and some resources that are out there for you. So I think the next kind of part that we're looking at is, well, if, there's these concerning behaviors and safety considerations, why would somebody stay? It'd be so easy just to leave. And in theory, you're right, but there's just so many things that go into it. Of course, there's that fear, but also maybe you're just embarrassed. You don't want people knowing your personal business. You don't necessarily want people to know that you're in this situation, and that's understandable. We want to kind of always, what we portray to others is not always what's kind of going on in the real world. There could also be some low self-esteem. Maybe you kind of feel like this is what you kind of deserve. A lot of times when we come to college, especially, you're out of high school, you're in a new environment, and maybe, you didn't do too much like dating in high school. Like just maybe that wasn't like your thing, you weren't there yet. And now you're at a point where, oh, somebody's interested in me. Like, this is exciting, and it is exciting. But we want someone to be interested in you who treats you with the respect that you deserve. But it can be totally understandable to maybe not necessarily always have that. And then when someone is interested, to just accept it just because it's there for you now. And you do deserve better, I promise you that. There's also things like, cultural beliefs, religious beliefs. There's a lot of people who sometimes think that, this is a lot I'm kind of in, and this is what I need to do, and that's just how it is. Maybe they saw relationships like this were normalized to them when they were growing up, and so maybe that's just something that they don't even think about. There's also things like language barriers, immigration status, being afraid that if I say something, they'll like go and tell somebody, where I'm at as far as my status here in the country. There could be lack of money, resources, disabilities. There's so many different reasons why someone would stay in a relationship like this. And please know that at the end of the day, we don't know everything. So not everyone is going to share every reason for this, and that's okay. And I think it's important that we just realize that there's never just one thing that's going on. I promise there's always other things that are kind of playing into this. So what can we do to help? I think a lot of times we kind of get into the role of, all right, this person needs my help and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fix it. And I think that's a really great mindset to have, that you want to help somebody. That's wonderful. But there's some things that we do want to kind of keep in mind. First and foremost, it's always important to acknowledge that they are in a difficult situation. Just kind of letting them know that you see them and that you believe them really is going to make a huge difference. And it's really like a really good place to start off. Being supportive and listening to them. Sometimes they just need to talk it out. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients where we started talking, and before you know it, they talked what they were going through. And by the end of the conversation, without me even really saying anything, they've kind of come to the conclusion of, all right, this is my plan and this is what I'm going to do. And they're the ones who see it. They're the ones who are living it, and they know when they're ready. And, not being judgmental. It's very difficult to share these types of details with somebody. All those reasons that we talked about of why someone wouldn't want to, share what's going on. But that feeling of being judged is definitely up there for one of those reasons. That can be so difficult to be dealing with, not feeling safe, and then feeling that people are looking down at you. Always remember that at the end of the day, people make their own decisions. And as tough as it can be, and it can be tough, like, don't get me wrong, watching somebody that you care about go through this type of situation is not an easy thing to go through. But telling them and, essentially rescuing them, it's not going to work. It may work in the short term, but at the end of the day, they have to make the decision that this is not a relationship that they're okay with. Encourage them to talk to somebody. Maybe if they don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to you, you have great resources over at JU in the counseling center. They have hotlines where they don't have to give any information that they don't want to give. We're also a resource that's available too. So letting them know that they don't have to necessarily talk to you if that's not what they want. Sometimes, as odd as it might seem, sometimes talking to a stranger is sometimes easier. So letting them know that those resources are available. And, encouraging them maybe to look into some other things, maybe inviting them out when you go, when we get to the post-COVID world, when we go out shopping or you're going to a restaurant, like invite them out, like have a good time. Sometimes a distraction really does help, and they can see that it's okay to let loose and have some fun as well. Because just because they're going through this doesn't mean that they have to constantly always be thinking about solely this. They're allowed to go out and have some fun and have a life too. And then that's where we also can come in as well. My two colleagues, Jocelyn and Carrie, we make up the Green Dot team over at the Women's Center, and we come and hang out with y'all over at JU, and we can talk about bystander intervention. Sometimes we see things and we want to help out, we want to do our part, and most people really do feel that way, but sometimes we just don't know what to do. So that's where we come in, and kind of like Dr. Wilden had the 7 C's, we have our 3 D's. So direct, delegate, distract. These are ways that we can, intervene in a way that's safe and that's reasonable and realistic to you. So we have different trainings that we can go through. They're interactive. They are so much fun. We go to various classes and organizations. So I know that, this is new student orientation week. You're getting so much information. You're getting so many things handed out at you. But when you get settled in a little bit, please reach out to us. We can come, talk with your professor, bring us into your class, or if you're part of any organizations, we can get together and we can, do these trainings, and we can do them virtually as well. So, I know that in big groups isn't always necessarily what we are doing right now, but we have ways that we can interact, and I promise they're a lot of fun. These can sometimes be some tough subjects, but we have a good time with it, and we have lots of swag that we can give out as well.
Thank you so much, Matt. And I think, one of the things I want to reiterate that Mallory was saying is that there's so many resources at Jacksonville University and in the Jacksonville community with Mallory and Carrie and Jocelyn's team of the Green Dot. We have an amazing Jacksonville University Counseling Center staff that, our services are completely free and confidential. We have a lot of support groups in addition to relationships. You might have been on a call just the other day with one of my colleagues on stress, but we do stress, relationships, biofeedback, kind of any kind of really topics to help your adjustment be easier and fun for college. We also do a lot of prevention and wellness programs. So we can loan you, we have a heart math program where we loan that out, and you can do some really neat kind of mindfulness activities. And we do healthy relationships workshops. We also do crisis intervention. So if you're in a situation or somebody who is and they need kind of more immediate assistance, we definitely can support with those situations as well. And we're one of the offices on campus that if we don't know that we're the one to serve you, we're gonna find the right place for you. So there's never a wrong question to ask, or if you make a connection with us, we're going to do everything in our power to support you, to help you, to make your college years hopefully some of the best ones in your life. And if we're not the office to kind of help you navigate a certain situation, we're going to do everything in our power to help connect you with people on campus that will also help you, whether that's advising or tutoring or solution center or your faculty, and we'll really help navigate different paths depending on your unique questions, your unique situation. One of the things we also do, if you're coming with this need, is we do help with medication referrals within the Jacksonville community and some supports we have, as well as assessments. So we do the learning disability or ADD, things like that. If you need help with assessments and things on that side, please don't hesitate to reach out to us for any of these. Of course, we do have our Jacksonville University webpage, and a lot of information is on there. I will make a note that we've provided a lot of support and resources. We're continuing to do telemental health all through the summer with our students, and definitely have some students coming in reaching out as well. So that's the easiest way to contact us, is through our ju.edu Counseling Center webpage, and you'll see information about how to connect with us individually or the various groups and outreach programs that we offer both now and in your time when you're a JU student.
I'll talk a little bit about Women's Center for you. We're actually less than 2 miles away from the JU campus, so we're not too far from you, but we are the Certified Rape Crisis Center for here in Duval County. We also serve Nassau and Baker, but we provide services to anyone who's been affected by sexual violence. So we do serve all genders, all ages. We support those who are going through the law enforcement process, also those who choose not to go through the law enforcement process. And we have a 24-hour rape crisis hotline. This hotline truly is 24/7. If anyone just needs to talk for a few minutes, you have questions, there's always going to be advocates that you can speak to at any time during the day, night, holidays, weekend. We are also there to provide forensic exams for someone who has been sexually assaulted within the past 5 days. That's for evidence collection, but also to make sure that there, isn't anything that would need any kind of like physical medical treatment, as well as providing some medications. For those who are choosing to go through the law enforcement process, we have advocates who are able to provide accompaniment, as well as just kind of walking people through the process. If this is not something that you've had to go through in the past, you might just not know like where to start. So the advocates can kind of help you out with that. We provide information, referrals. We have various support groups as well. Of course, we can talk about safety planning and that crisis intervention. Our services are not just for survivors, they are also for what we call co-survivors. So that means friends, family members, partners who are maybe supporting somebody that they care about through this. That can be a really difficult time for those people as well. So all the services that we provide to our survivors, we also provide to their loved ones. And like I said, our hotline truly is 24/7.
So the numbers I have up now are both myself and Mallory's contact information with phone numbers, as well as some other national and local resources for you to have. And I want to close by saying we really appreciate you being on this with your orientation program. We are absolutely thrilled that you've chosen to be a Dolphin at Jacksonville University. And we will support you with everything from your transition to your adjustment to all of the years that you're at JU. And, I think, when I look at the college years, to me, these are some of the best years of your life where you make lasting connections. I'm still best friends with many of my college friends and roommates. And so these are some of the wonderful years that hopefully you'll make lasting relationships that are fun, engaging, exciting. And we're here to help really navigate anything that comes up for you with any of that in a confidential and free manner. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us if there's anything that we can do to help you.